After 2 weeks of extreme Formula 1 team secrecy, we've had a deluge of designs properly uncovered in pre-season testing. Last year's top 3 teams, Mercedes, Red Bull and McLaren, all went out of their way to hide parts of their 2021 cars during launch season, and others across the grid have also kept cards close to their chests. But as testing finally began in Bahrain, many tech secrets were laid bare, and there's plenty that have already caught our eye. Mercedes bounced back from its poor start to testing by topping day 2, and the most interesting part of the new W12 is still its advanced floor design. The team was especially coy about its floor at the car's launch, where Mercedes was concealing an unusual design with eye-catching elements at the front and rear. Mercedes' floor has a wavy edge from where the floor sits beneath the turning vanes to roughly halfway to the rear, which artificially increases the surface area. On the front corner, it has separated the normally continuous turned-up section on the outer edge into 4 segments, with another slightly milder segment preceding that underneath the middle of the barge board area. In one continuous section, the tendency will be for the rear part to work harder than the front. By separating it, Mercedes will improve the overall performance, but more importantly improve the performance further forward, and it will help direct the airflow towards the reprofiled side pods and direct it to the back of the car. At the rear of the floor, Mercedes has a small turned up section on the surface itself and another horizontal turning vane with angled separators. This package is to reduce the amount of airflow that will be pulled under the underfloor, which would reduce the downforce this area could potentially produce. The horizontal turning vane and separators will be an attempt to connect this part of the floor to the turning vanes that are mounted on the inside surface of the rear brake ducts, the lower ones of which have been reduced in size for 2021. That's part of the quartet of aero changes around the back half of the car that have cut downforce levels, and this is all part of Mercedes' attempt to claw as much of that back as it can. Interestingly, the details of the Aston Martin floor are similar to the Mercedes concept. But before we get too carried away with the similarity, in light of the pink Mercedes controversy Aston Martin endured when it was called Racing Point last year, it's worth pointing out Mercedes' version is more mature than what we can see on the AMR21. In fact, it's immediately obvious from looking at other teams that the levels of complexity on the floors are extremely varied, and Mercedes is at a different level for now. Red Bull was the most secretive of all when it came to what it was willing to show of its car, with just 2 studio photos of the RB16B and a host of assets showing the 2019 RB15 on track. So what's it been hiding? The RB16B's rear suspension follows the Mercedes lead from last year in moving the forward leg of the rear lower wishbone rearward. It's best described as reversing the normal suspension layout. Red Bull has moved the lower wishbone behind the drive shaft, shown in red. Our technical expert Gary Anderson reckons it doesn't have a typical V-shaped wishbone, and instead both legs are contained in a single, bigger aerodynamic shroud, with what we can see visibly marked in yellow. Gary's theory is that it has a bend to it as well, with the forward leg of the wishbone curved forward to use the same mounting point as last year where it disappears under the bodywork. It will still have 3 mounting points with 2 inboard mounts to the gearbox or crash structure and a single outboard mount to the upright. The adjustable toe link, shown here in green, is now in front of the drive shaft. The outboard end pickup is on the upright, and the inboard pickup on the gearbox is in a similar position to last year's lower wishbone rear leg, which was nearest to the drive shaft. All of this is to reduce the blockage between the tyre and the body profile, and also influence the airflow rear of the drive shaft to help the diffuser's performance. If all this works as planned, it should enhance the diffuser's influence and increase the underbody downforce, which is vital given the aero rule changes. Red Bull has also run a different version of its floor with changes to the vanes on the surface in the first 3 sessions of the test. The challenge is to seal the rear part of the floor as best as possible, and to reinvent all those slots we've seen in the outer part of the floor develop over the last few years. On the first morning, Red Bull ran its basic concept. Then on Friday afternoon, a turning vane that we've marked in yellow was added. This will induce a new vortex to improve the sealing, either pulling air from underneath the car or at least stopping airflow from being sucked underneath, which we've shown in blue. On Saturday morning, another 2 turning vanes were added, marked here in red. These 2 vanes will change the direction of the vortex slightly, helping to align it across the front of the rear tyre and connect it up to the tyre squirt. Tyre squirt, which we've shown in green, is generated by the rear tyre rotating and displacing the airflow around the inside or the outside of the rear tyre. These vanes will help trying to get it to the outside, which is what Red Bull wants. McLaren went to great lengths to hide its barge boards when the car ran on its promotional days at Silverstone, but they were on full show in Bahrain. The barge boards are crucial in channeling the airflow to the rear of the car and the underfloor, which is why teams put so much effort into these ever more elaborate designs. The airflow coming through these horizontal louvres marked in yellow and green to note the two different levels they're sited at is used to help entice the flow out from underneath the front corner of the floor, which we've marked in blue. This helps produce more downforce from this area to overcome the losses from further rearward. Obviously in the end they all merge together and are pulled through the undercut side pod and in turn the coke bottle area by the low pressure area behind the car. The red line marks the trailing edge of the floor that's been turned up, and you can see this turn up increases as it goes rearward, and McLaren is aiming to get the more forward area to work more efficiently. Another part of the MCL35M hidden at the car's launch was the diffuser. Once seen at testing, it triggered quite some excitement, with suggestions the team has found a way around the new limitation on the length of diffuser strakes. But bowing to the wisdom of Gary Anderson once more, it appears to be completely legal and with no trickery or loophole involved. The modified regulations for 2021 do allow for longer inboard strakes as long as they are inside 250mm from the car's centreline on either side. But there is another regulation that explains why McLaren was able to have a more explicit vane last year, but now has a more simplified and curved shape to fit in with this regulation. The reason McLaren has taken this approach with the centre section, which is called the reference plane, is it will work this area that is lowest to the ground harder and get more downforce from it. Renault never really had a slimline airbox engine cover combination, but the version on the first Alpine F1 car is taking it to the extreme. It's triggered comparisons with the Ligier JS5 of Jacques Lafitte from 1976 amid F1's trend of tall airboxes outlawed after 4 races of that season. The bulbous solution is a technical compromise the team has made to have slimmer side pods. Alpine has repackaged and relocated some of the bulkier internals behind the air inlet, which has created what the team admits is a fairly spectacularly bulky shape. Alpine says the overall aero gain is worthwhile, despite the centre of gravity and weight compromises that come with the idea. It has trialled a slightly slimmer solution as well, but this one's not exactly elegant either. We know Haas doesn't have the most innovative 2021 car, but this test has at least finally shown us the real thing after a brief shakedown video cameo and a 2021 livery launch using a 2020 car. Haas has committed to limited aerodynamic development over the winter, hasn't spent any development tokens and won't be upgrading this car through the season. But there are some noteworthy changes, including the introduction of a cape on the second day, which finally brings Haas into line with other teams. Elsewhere, the VF21 has the necessary changes to meet the new rules requiring a narrower floor at the rear with a small curve upwards. It was also seen evaluating 2 different floors with different edge profiles. There are gains from Ferrari's upgraded power unit, which has led to slightly more tightly packaged rear bodywork. But really, Haas's biggest changes remain the new paint scheme and 2 rookie drivers. Those are our tech highlights from testing so far, but have we missed anything that's caught your eye? Let us know in the comments below, give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to The Race for more insight into F1 testing and the big stories ahead of the new season.